down, power lines are down.
Message of 290 characters follows.
Hey guys, dealing with some spring allergies here. I wanted to bring you a few podcasts that I recorded back in early 2025, late 2024 about Hurricane Helene and some other things surrounding that. So this is some older stuff that I didn't put on my YouTube channel, recorded it for another platform, but I wanted to share here. So that's why you're hearing some things about older events. I hope you guys enjoy. There's a lot of great and useful information here, just in folks' experiences. So hope you guys enjoy.
Hello, everyone. This is Patrick, in for Forrest again on the Prepping Academy podcast. This week, we will pick up with part 2 of our After Action report on Hurricane Helene. If you would like to learn more about the Prepping Academy podcast and about PrepperNet, please check us out at PrepperNet.com and PrepperNet.net for our own private social media platform. If you're interested in improving your communications game for the next time we have a disaster where communication systems fail, check out the Comms Academy at PrepperNet.net to learn more about how to communicate when all else fails. As I like to say, without communications, you're just another guy wondering what just happened. Today, in part 2 of our After Action report, we will discuss some of the things that we learned after many of us went back into the disaster zone to help with relief efforts. We will discuss some of the things that we learned, some of the things that we observed, and how we will improve our systems. To kind of shift gears here, after a lot of folks left, or folks who weren't there at all in my case, we decided we were going to go back into the area and try to help people who were in need. Because Forrest was talking about, seeing grown men cry was not unusual. The devastation, the destruction, the change to the landscape is astonishing in so many areas that just over the course of a few hours, rivers changed path, all the topsoil, the roads, everything just wiped clean by the water. Totally hard to wrap your mind around if you didn't see it. You can hear the descriptions, you can see the videos on YouTube, but until you're standing there in the middle of it and see the sheer scope and the amount of power that was exerted, it is hard to wrap your brain around. So I know, one of the questions I had here is, did you go back? I know Beth went back. I know Forrest went back. Pete, did you do anything in the area?
I had fires to put out here at the house. We made donations, stuff like that, but no, my HVAC went out during that weekend and had some other issues to deal with here at the house, so we did what we could monetarily.
That's understandable. Some folks had work they had to deal with. They had a lot of other things going on. The week after this, we had, it was 2 weeks after, that we had a bugout camp planned. Bugout camp ended up getting canceled because the Stone Mountain State Park was closed due to hurricane damage, even though they're kind of on the edge of where the damage was. But it still sounds like they had enough trees and other stuff down that they were trying to get that cleaned up. And I'm sure that wasn't a huge priority resources-wise for the state of North Carolina, considering the other things that were going on. So that stayed in the no-go zone for a little while. And some of us that would have been doing that decided, we're just going to go help and do what we can. I ended up going and linking up with Grindstone Ministries on the Tennessee side with AmRRON and doing communication stuff and helping those guys out, because we really realized that communications in those areas, communications is life and logistics. If you do not have the ability to communicate, you can't logistic. If you can't logistic, you don't eat, you don't stay warm, you can't move debris, you can't rebuild, you can't facilitate any of this stuff. You can't search and rescue. You can't do anything without communications. And the terrain over there is so rugged that for folks that aren't from the mountains here or mountains out west, don't really understand just how bad the communication situation gets. And we saw a lot of really good stuff. And I'm going to do another episode where we just talk about communications in the hurricane, because I can probably do a couple of hours on that alone. But I wanted to get with you guys while we were on here and see kind of what did you guys see in the areas that you went into? Was it what you expected? Was it worse? Who was there helping? I know it was primarily NGOs and ministries. And what kind of help were they providing? What were the things that people needed? What are the things that people still need? The people who are listening here can maybe link up with a ministry or a charity and try to help provide for people there, because this isn't over. It's a month. It's falling out of the news cycle, but these people are going to be rebuilding for years. And some people still don't even have a road to get to their town. So I want to know a little bit about what you guys saw in the areas you were in, because I was in the Northeast Tennessee area. I know Forrest went into Spruce Pine. Beth, you were kind of all over. So I want to hear what you guys saw and what it was kind of a little bit like in those areas. And what did you also see in there that preppers tend to overlook? What did you prep for that maybe you didn't think about? And I know we all don't think about all their stuff getting washed down the side of a mountain, so that one's kind of off, other than diversify and have multiple locations. What did you guys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if I can take just a second to go back to a point you made a minute ago about communications. And I ended up with a group at Avery County Airport, which has been closely tied to the Mount Mitchell repeater this whole time, from the beginning with wellness checks and into complete logistics with an operator named Vicky 83I. You might think, hey, these communities have Starlink, so ham is obsolete. What do we need ham for? I would say absolutely you still need ham, because even if you had cell or Starlink, it might give you great if you had somebody to call, or if the person on the other end was able to take your call. But what I saw with ham radio and with the Mount Mitchell repeater is when someone needed help, we had someone to reach out and cast a wide net of who could help. Get this log splitter to this location, the logistics of moving things and materials and the most needed items to keep people from freezing through the night. Like, it was urgent stuff. And honestly, you can't do that with the Starlink, because you can't reach out to all this audience of ham radio operators who were stepping up right and left saying, I can drive to this location. I can pick it up from there. I've got a side-by-side. I can get it down that hill. How's Starlink going to help you do any of that? So I was majorly impressed with, even with all this high-tech new technology, how important ham radio still was. And to get to your other question, like, what did we see? My role at the Avery County Airport kept me, what they say, inside the wire. But we had field ops teams going out every day. And if we had leads on somebody who needed help, we'd send an ops team there. And I have amazing stories about how all that played out. But just generally speaking, they went into areas with washed out roads. They got to people and took them the things they needed. What are the urgent needs? Avery County Airport posts every day what the urgent needs are, like right now, based on our current donations. But it's always heat sources, buddy heaters, propane, generators. Those stay at the top of the list. Chainsaws stay at the top of the list. Food and clothing, not as much at this point, although their focus is get people through the winter. Like, one woman came through to pick up some things, and she said, I haven't had a paycheck in weeks. I work at McDonald's. McDonald's is closed. I can't afford groceries because I'm not getting a paycheck. So there's, what do you call those, second and third order dominoes coming out of these things and coming out of the hurricane. And so the needs are going to be there for a long time. And the Avery County Airport, I know there's a lot of other churches. I'm just speaking from what I had experience with. They're there for the long haul and to get everyone through the winter. I don't know if that sort of answers some of what you were asking.
Oh, it does. And that's the thing. I think people initially, I helped load a couple tractor trailers of disaster relief supplies here locally, and it was food, water, clothes, sports drinks, those sorts of things. But there was very little on the front of, what is Cody Lindine's book, 98.6 Degrees, The Art of Keeping Your Rear End Alive, or something like that. In the things that provide that, you have to have shelter. You have to have drinking water. You got to have food. Well, the shelter side of it, it was kind of, lacking a little bit there. And we see the need for fuel. We see the need for heat. We see the need for a lot of those things. Is there anything that you've learned from this that you would take back to your personal prepping that you would want to, hey, I am really weak on this? Like for me, one of those, kind of an example of that is I'm weak on water. I have water everywhere around me. I have water filters. I don't really worry about water because, hey, I got water I can go filter and get. And I live in practically a rainforest. We get so much water every year. But in this area, there's water everywhere and not a drop to drink because all of it's contaminated with sewage, decaying organic matter, dead animals, dead other things. All of these things that make the water not usable for drinking. Wells are contaminated. So if you got a well, congratulations, your well needs sanitized, and your neighbor's well probably needs sanitized, and so does everyone else's. So that was a big thing for me, is I really need to actually store water, because I was like, I don't need to store water. I can get water out of the well. I can get water out of the creek. I can get water out of the spring. I can get, but maybe something happens, I can't. So did you learn anything like that?
So I've got to give that some more thought, because again, these people had everything washed away. Like you said earlier in the podcast, it's a whole different ballgame unless you had your caches at alternate locations. I do need to think through that. But we had a family come through, family of 5, no shelter. They were very, very dirty. Like their car was muddy, their skin, their hair, their nails. They had been living outside. They asked for a tent. And we had a lot of tents, sleeping bags, sleeping pads. And we tried to set them up with a bunch of other stuff. And they said, no, we don't want to take away from what other people need. Mm-hmm. And we're like, family, you need this. I mean, that was the attitude of the people. And I know I'm not answering your question, but shelter, when you were mentioning shelter and getting people warm and to live through the night, was super important. But this family had also been drinking out of the streams. So we had a lot of filters. We had some bucket gravity filters and some other types of filters. So we set them up. We taught them how to use it. We said, shower with this, drink this. It was a miracle that they weren't sick. But it's a lot to think about. And we as preppers luckily have thought through a lot of that, and we know what's dangerous and not. So that gives us an edge up, and that we can help others as well. But I need to think about your question a little more, because of what I could take away. It's hard because I just focused on the complete devastation. So let me give that some more thought.
Okay. Forrest, what about the area that you were in?
Well, I never actually went up there because I felt that I was more useful in where I was, because my phone had to work, because I was calling and lining people up. And I will say a couple things. In Spruce Pine, every computer in the world starts in Spruce Pine because of the quartz they have there. They mine feldspar, mica, and quartz. And every computer chip in the world, because it's the purest, starts in Spruce Pine. So it's a pretty significant city for keeping America great and the world going. And so, but I will say that first day into it, I had a friend, he's in charge of like all the cell phone towers for a particular company in the area, for his company in the area. And immediately I sent him to Spruce Pine, because Spruce Pine had no cell phone service. So I sent him to it's kind of a huge mix-up. I told him to go to my old high school and set up a cell phone tower. He actually went to the next county over and set up our competition, our competitors all through high school, the cell tower at that high school. And he goes, so I set the tower up at the Green High School. I'm like, no, I'm the Purple High School. I'm at Mitchell High School. He goes, you're not at Mountain Heritage High School? And I'm like, no. He goes, okay, well, I'm going to have to go back. But he went back to Spruce Pine and set up a cell tower for people, local, that one cell spot to make sure that this was Monday, the day after, 2 days after all this happened. Because Sunday they were just coming out of the rubble going, what just happened? And so we also, PrepperNet has some amazing volunteers. We've sent over 100 people up in that area. We sent 2 teams of search and rescue that went up there that was going down into hollers or up in the hollers for the first time, helping people, tagging people that maybe have passed away. I mean, they literally were doing search and rescue. And the first 2 teams PrepperNet sent were like high-end people. I mean, these are like operators or just highly trained people. And I remember the Baptist mission called me. This is on probably Wednesday, and said, hey, what's your organization? What do you guys do? How do you guys have all these highly trained people and all this kind of stuff? Yeah, this was Wednesday because one group went down and they were there 4 days and doing this stuff. But we sent people, a lot of people in there just to help out in the beginning, to cut trees, to get people out of their homes, to, some people couldn't even get out of their house unless it was through a window or something. And they were helping. I know PrepperNet members as a whole, I stopped following how much they donated, but at the time I stopped following, which was weeks ago, it was $27,000 for PrepperNet members that had just donated to one of my friend has a nonprofit, and I haven't asked him since. He's actually been up there every day for like the last 2 weeks, so I could volunteering. But as I think through, there's just some things you cannot prepare for physically. You cannot prepare for your house to be washed down the stream, or your car washed down the stream, or some things you just can't prepare for. We've thought through nuclear attacks. We've thought through rioting. We've thought through food shortages. But when everything you have is gone, that's hard. We really haven't gone that deep or that darkness. And so I would say that this builds the case that mindset and knowledge is your most important tools. Then comes community, because that's all these people had was their mindset. Okay, we're going to make this through it. We're going to do this. We've got to do this. And the skills that they have, mountain people, they have skills. And I know mountain people have been drinking that water when it was a regular stream their entire lives. Mountain water in the mountains, it doesn't have the bacteria that will kill you. I don't think North America really does, but it may make you sick. But they've been drinking that water for years. But now it's flooded and it's dirty water, so they do need to purify it. But they know how to survive off the land. But there's going to be stories of families helping families and people coming together, and we call it survival groups or our tribe, and communities coming together. That's the big story that's going to come out of this, I believe, is that the pastors of the church and the leaders of the churches are the heroes. They're the ones organizing, collecting the food, giving out the food, making sure their congregation is taken care of, the people in their community are taken care of. It's not FEMA. It's not Red Cross. It's the pastors and the Baptist men and Samaritan's Purse that has gone up there and has saved all the lives that have made the biggest impact. I would say 90% of the impact is done by like the local pastors of church, the and Christians going up there and volunteering, and Samaritan's Purse. 90% outside of the television area. When you go to Asheville, movie stars are showing up because they know that's where the population is. They know they're going to get notoriety. They know that they're going to get seen. They know people are going to talk about them. But when you get into the hollers of Mitchell County and Avery County and Yancey County, there is absolutely zero notoriety. No one gives a poop. They need so much help. They don't care who you are. They just pull them out or whatever. But I think the story is mindset, knowledge, and then community is what's going to be the hero of the day, is the community coming helping them, because there was no FEMA, there was no Red Cross, there was the National Guard in Mitchell County. And I asked a friend, I'm like, because I expected bad things. Like, what are they doing? They checking everybody's car? They letting people drive? They go, no, that's not how it is. They've got their shirt off with their BDU pants on, and they're cutting trees down. They're fixing landslides, and which was a huge credit to them that they went up there to be service people, not to police or to take charge. So.
And Forrest, you kind of segued perfectly into one of the next things I wanted to bring up. The situation in Asheville, Swannanoa, Lake Lure, Chimney Rock, those areas, they're getting a lot of the press time and so much attention on the internet. But the areas where you were talking about in Mitchell County, in Yancey County, in Avery County, in the other counties over there that are along the Tow and I think the Cane River that turn into the Nolichucky and then flow out into Tennessee where I was at, nobody really has spent a lot of time focusing on that. And those areas are devastated. I have a friend that went up there that worked for an agency here, and the firehouse was gone. The fire engines were washed, a half mile down the creek, just wrapped up in a mess. Everything was just washed away along the river. And that brings to kind of a question I had about the fog of war. That's kind of the I guess the end term for this, but it's the confusion, the lack of information getting out of the impacted areas. This kind of, we think we know what's going on, but we don't really know because we're just basing all this off of second and third hand information because communication systems don't work. And I guess this question is probably really mostly directed towards Beth because she was in Avery County, which is kind of Grand Central Station for that whole watershed that just got smashed. When you were there, what was the fog of war like on the ground? For us outside, it was fairly thick trying to figure out just the extent of what happened and the truth about what was going on, and was some of the crazy stuff real and was it not? Did you guys have a better understanding of that on the ground, or was it still really hard to grasp and get your arms around the scope and the needs in that area even weeks into it?
So we had a bunch of field teams and reconnaissance teams, and we had in our talk, we had a huge map on the wall, and they were methodically going through every single area and we had a lot of volunteers come in and bring in all their equipment and side-by-sides, and we would map out. They would go into every single region, either field ops to go do a certain mission, like help someone get a tree off their roof or clear their driveway or rebuild things. We also had reconnaissance that just said, okay, and we haven't been to this area and that area. So I think they brought back, at least for all those areas, the truth of what was happening, the stories that were out there. Like Forrest alluded to earlier, our debriefings at night, the men were crying. I mean, it was hard to hear some of the stories, but more misinformation. examples was at the Avery County Airport, word had gotten out that we were a militia and that we were shooting at airplanes and shooting down the helicopters. And we were anti-government, and we were just a crazy group of people at the airport. That literally was out there. The sheriff had to come. Everybody was open carrying, and he didn't have a big problem with that. But he was telling us, this is what's out there. He had to come and say, obviously see that that wasn't the case. But then when he would hear more things, he would come again. We were Antifa. We were like, just where does this stuff come from? How do these rumors start? People, so you heard the rumors about people threatening FEMA and all that sort of thing. I can say from our ops, none of that was happening because honestly, FEMA wasn't even out there. I know a friend in Tennessee who did, or Virginia, sorry, who did, as she was working parts of Tennessee, see some little conflicts between people and FEMA. So it's misinformation. How do you know what's true or not? How do you know we weren't shooting down helicopters? I mean, that was just crazy. But from our boots on the ground, field ops and reconnaissance ops, we didn't see looting. We didn't see people, neighbors against neighbors. We just saw what Forrest was talking to, amazing communities helping each other. And they brought home the stories. And from that, I think firsthand, we garnered the truth of what was in our area.
That's great. And that kind of goes to show what we see, or what the general populace sees presented by YouTube. So many of the YouTube videos I saw were being put together by people that hadn't even been there. And it's like, really, you're saying all this stuff's happening? Why don't you go pick up a chainsaw and go help some folks and see what's actually going on? Because we didn't see on the Tennessee side much of that either. There were some incidents where maybe sections of town that were normally not the great section of town you'd want to go hang out in kind of got a little worse as criminal activity picked up, but it still kind of stayed isolated to those areas. We really didn't see looting either. I know there were probably some cases of, maybe some minor looting and that kind of thing, but it didn't seem like a big thing. In a lot of other disasters, particularly wildfires, it's not unusual to see a lot of looting happen when people leave and the area's evacuated, or a hurricane, a more normal hurricane on the coast. Where people evacuate, leave their stuff behind, that looters show up. Here, I guess it was just too bad for them to make it in from wherever they were coming from. I don't know.
Well, maybe so, but I guess the unscrupulous part that we saw and that we had to be careful and vet for is people would come ask for, let's say, generators, and then all of a sudden you'd see it on Facebook Marketplace. So they developed a very good vetting routine for that type of thing, because you've always got your unscrupulous actors, but that's about all.
Yeah, you see that everywhere with diapers and high-value items and that kind of thing. And once you've been around it for a while, you can kind of almost like smell those people when they show up. There's just a vibe that you get that they're here. Hey, can I get some diapers? What size do you need? Anything will work. It's like, you don't actually have a kid, do you? Because if you did, you wouldn't be asking that question, because it does matter. Yep. Any of us that have kids know it does matter. That's interesting, and I think some of that also speaks to the area that we were in. In the mountains, people tend to look after themselves. They tend to be a little more community driven because they have to be dependent. The churches, everywhere we would set up some sort of base of operations, it was a church. It was a community center. It was something that the community gathered around. That was the trend, not something you see in cities. It's different, when you look at Asheville. I haven't been there, so I can't speak for sure, but it doesn't sound like it's the same environment there as you would find, in Avery or in Poplar or Burnsville or Spruce Pine, or a lot of those areas.
Say in Mitchell County, you don't loot. Loot is a good way to die, because these mountain, they don't carry they carry guns. They don't really carry guns for looters or criminals. They carry guns for the wildlife that's up there as well. And so the last thing you want to do is go into a hornet's nest and then try to steal something in a these people's lives, and you're trying to going to take something, they'll shoot you and bury you. And I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm just saying it's kind of like Texas. You don't mess with Texas because you don't know who's the last person you're going to see because they might shoot you. But there was no looting that I knew of. I was talking daily with, I won't say not family, but friends every single day. So I have one friend, his house was water just came through it. And, he's cleaned it up. He's cleaned it up. He's got some dehumidifiers. They're repairing the house. They're still in the house. These people aren't going to leave their house. I know FEMA thinks they're going to come and condemn some of these houses. That's where a civil war is going to happen. So we'll have to see what's going to happen there in the future. But I know his mother, Mary, and his sister, Donna, has his restaurant off the river in Bakersville, and the thing was just destroyed. They put their life savings in this restaurant, and it's gone. There's no flood insurance. Who has flood insurance on a creek that's 6 feet wide, and at the worst day ever, is a hip deep up to your hips. That's the worst flood they've had there until this happened. And it changed everything. And then all of a sudden, that little 6 foot wide creek that, you could trout fish in rose, 38 feet. That's just unheard of. But they've lost everything. They're trying to raise money to, possibly start another restaurant and get some of their money back. But I'm amazed. And Beth was there, but some of the churches we were sending supplies to, they started asking for, boxes, storage boxes, like storage containers from the back of a truck, because they said, our sanctuary is full, our classrooms are full. We know we're going to give this out, and that's good. We have it. Don't stop giving, but we need more places for storage. And wasn't that the case where you were? Even they had hangars at the Avery Airport that were getting full, and they needed more storage.
Yeah, we were asking for Connex containers, but again, we're trying to get people through the whole winter, and we're looking at it as a very long-term operation. And but yeah, the donations that have come in from around the country and around the world have been insane. Big story at the Avery County Airport early on, before our own government did anything, it was the Prince of a country.
A prince of a country.
Was it Jordan? Prince of Jordan sent wasn't Jordan?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
An airplane and really flew into the Avery County Airport and handed the keys over and said, basically, use this all y'all need to early on. I got to ask which country it was real quick.
That's so cool.
No, I mean, that was like the talk. I mean, that's been the talk of the airport when that came in, and that literally from another country. So
yeah. The way people have reached out to help everyone in this is truly amazing. And it truly does give you a little bit of encouragement for humanity. As preppers, we focus on the dystopian stuff all the time, but it's really cool to see communities come together.
I'm going to shout out some good names because these are just two good friends, and they do a lot for the prepping community. But every time I ask for donations or something, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy came through. I'm receiving boxes from Amazon at my house. I told them, about my friends that had the restaurant. All of a sudden, their name appears on there that they donated. And they're just great people since, we're in that industry that they've donated and done amazing things. But also people just like, I have a lady bringing by 12 sleeping bags tomorrow at my office. And another lady just asked for a shipping address, and I have no idea what's coming. It's going to, but people have been donating. I know when I came home, I had like one day I had 8 boxes just sitting on my home, and I'm like, who's shipping stuff at my house? Wait a second now. and it was Bones and Amy bought all these blankets and shipped them to my house because they knew my address. Anyone else, don't be sending stuff to my house now. But
I did just get clarification from the airport. It was the King of Jordan sent an airplane.
Cool. That's amazing. And I want to circle back for a second to something that Beth said about, sending recon teams out, developing that picture, going into all the hills and hollers and roads and talking to people and finding this information. We were doing that on the Tennessee side with Grindstone as well. Those guys are experts at that. They're like, it's amazing the kind of things that they were doing. And that's something that we as preppers, I think, don't pay attention to enough. Is it's going to be up to us during a disaster. It's the local community. It's the people in the community, boots on the ground, that have to have our own sources, have to collect our own information, have to put together that picture of what's going on, because nobody else is going to do it for you. It's not coming from outside because they have no idea what's going on. It's those people that are right there, because in spite of the fact that everybody on YouTube has something to say about what's going on in every area, the operations like the Avery Airport, the operations like the Cherry Grove site that Grindstone was running, there's many others that were doing that kind of stuff. They actually had a decent idea of what was going on in their area, much more accurate than what people were posting on the internet a lot of times. And that's going to come in a disaster down to us and having skills. And we've already seen that preppers, when they're showing up to this, at least the ones that are serious about it, the PrepperNet people, I can't say anything about those other groups out there, I don't know about them, but they're well prepared. They have what they need. They're able to sustain themselves. They're able to really be a benefit to the community that they're coming to help. Because in previous disasters, we've even seen first responders show up without fuel for their vehicles, without food, without the things they need to sustain themselves, going, hey, we're going to come help. And then they end up needing rescued. So seeing groups like this, seeing preppers, this is where you can shine as a prepper. If you're out there and you're stockpiling food, you're learning these skills, man, go help somebody with all that stuff. You've put tons and tons of hours into learning how to do this. Well, go out there, put rubber to the road, and help your fellow man out a little bit and show, hey, we know how to do this, and let's get better at it. Because one day it might be you that's in that situation, and you'd be glad that somebody came to help. Because there are things, no matter how much you prep, if your house slides off the side of the mountain or gets washed down the creek and breaks up on a bridge with all your supplies in it, you're no better off than if you hadn't been prepping at all. So the community come out, help you, help rebuild. And Beth, you also answered a minute ago a question I had, which was, where are people staying? So clearly people are staying in tents and that kind of thing. I haven't heard anything about FEMA trailers. I haven't heard anything about all the usual stuff. So I guess people are staying in community centers. People are staying in tents and shelters and on their own property and that kind of thing. Does anybody know, more about what is going on there?
I don't know about any particular shelters in the area I was in, but I know people were trying to stay on their properties. There was a family trying to stay in 2 rooms of what was left of their house. I think Forrest alluded to it earlier. People aren't going to want to leave, but they are staying with friends, and there may very well be some shelters just that I wasn't aware of. No, none of the people coming through that I spoke to talked about being in a shelter.
This so everyone in their preparedness plan needs to have like an alternative bug out location. And you hear some people did leave when it was getting bad, and others, they had nowhere to go because they couldn't leave. But you want to stay in your home at this point. When it's over, no matter, even if you went and stayed with family or whatever, you want to come back and be in your house and clean up. And so my friend that was up there that, I told you his house washed out and all this kind of stuff, he didn't lose a lot, but he's working So he's an automobile mechanic, and he is repairing cars that were in the flood so people can drive because that was their only car, or, getting them so they can work. And he says, Forrest, I'm getting up before light comes. I'm working on cars. I come home. Then I have to clean my house. And he goes, I'm just tired. He goes, I've got, 3 months of yard work and housework to do. And I've got to continue to do my job and provide cars for these people. Cause, he's got he had a bunch of cars in line because they towed him to his shop, to his automobile place. To his mechanics, one of his mechanics lost everything, so he's not coming back to work. And his other mechanic hadn't been coming in, so he's been trying to help other people by doing his job, which is a mechanic, and fixing the cars. And then he's got his own belongings. And he just said, "I'm tired." He goes, every day, he goes, I just come home so exhausted. I work at home, then I go to sleep.
One of the things, kind of my next question for you guys, and this is something for all of us to just kind of mull on a little bit and think about. A lot of these areas, the infrastructure is gone. The power lines are gone. Communications lines are gone. It's literally just been washed down the river and stripped clean. It's like it was never there, even in some cases. The mental toll that no power, no communications, no anything is taking on the people who are there is huge. The destruction, the people they don't know where are, the friends, the families, all of these things takes a massive mental toll on everybody. And we talk about the mental toughness required for preparedness. That's something we talk about. How are you guys seeing? One, we've talked about people crying, just the people who are there just volunteering to help at the things they're seeing, the things they're having to do. How are people faring with the mental toughness? And does that change anything that you would prepare personally in the mental toughness side of things for you or your group? Hey, do you want a therapist now in your mag group just to help people get through what they're going to see and what they're going to deal with when this kind of thing happens? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Because that's something we don't talk enough about.
Well, let me throw this out to people listening. So imagine someone, you've lost power, you've been cutting trees for days, you're cleaning out mess, your car doesn't work, you have no food, you have no way to travel anywhere. And then a gentleman from the power company comes up to your house and say, "Hey, we can probably get power to your house in February." Mm-hmm. What does that do to you? What would you do then? I mean, you're at an all-time low, and then they come and tell you, "By the way, we won't be able to get power to your house for 4 more months." I mean, just think about that, because some of these people that we're talking about, they're getting that conversation or having that conversation with the power company because the infrastructure for half the county is gone and they have to rebuild it. And so imagine now you're going through winter and it gets cold up there. It gets into single digits up there. And now you're thinking, now I can't stay here. There's no way I can even stay here through winter. How am I going to do this? So to really appreciate it, just at your house, no power for 4 months. And while you're working your butt off to clean up and get back to somewhere where you were, and still you have no control. You would be living off kerosene or propane just to keep your family warm. And you're camping out every single night because you're cold.
For 4 months.
For 4 more months. That's the kind of conversation that's happening. The mental aspect of that is like, I mean, we think right now, oh yeah, we can tough it out. We can do that. I don't know. I would hightail it to someone else's house.
Go to the bugout location in Panama.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of, we talked to people when I was doing stuff in Tennessee who had family members that were suicidal. Their house was damaged. their job was gone, literally washed down the river. There was nothing to go back to. They still had bills showing up. Well, if the Postal Service could deliver them, but there was nowhere to deliver it to. They had no electricity. They weren't going to have electricity for months. And for a lot of people, I mean, we look at it and go, no, I don't want to do that. And yeah, I would probably try to bug out. But, you know, if I had to, maybe. But there's a lot of people who just aren't ready for that. They're used to football on Saturdays and playing video games in the evening, whatever, and not really having any thought of, well, what if I couldn't do that? So, Beth, Pete, you guys have thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think we've thought about that somewhat in our MAG group, but and thinking, you know, we have a pastor and a counselor, or plan to anyway. But none of that's enough, because none of us have experienced this sort of thing unless you were in the military, maybe in a real war zone, and experienced death and really horrible things. I don't know how you can prepare and have the mindset for that. And I think when if things get really that bad, some people won't be able to handle it. Some people will. I just think that's going to be a big unknown going forward.
So I've tried to put myself in that situation, and I'm not sure I really can. But if I were, I think I'd be relying on my faith, my family, and my friends for help. If I was going to be told that I wouldn't have power until February, I'd probably go to a family member's house or something like that. But I have distant cousins in Asheville. They went 18 days. They didn't have electricity, but they all were okay. And to them, that was the main thing. And so they didn't have electricity and water. The matriarch of the family had just recently passed away. She was 97 years old, and they've had the house on the market since, I guess, April or May. And it wouldn't sell. After the storm, it had power. And it had a well at that house, so they had water. So everybody in the family was going over there to do their laundry, take a shower, and then go back to where they live. Then you have other people who've lost almost their entire families out there. I don't know how you come back from that other than have that faith, or I don't know. I guess you'd have to be practically a sociopath or something not to be affected by something like that. So yeah, I guess I'd go to a family member's house or whatever other alternate bug out location I might have. I'd go to Forrest's house probably.
So
I'll have some Amazon orders waiting on his front porch when
So imagine you're in Spruce Pine and school's not going to start anytime soon. They can't. They're not even planning on starting school until after Christmas. And Tom, my friend, his wife is a teacher, and one of her eight-year-old students was washed away. How do you handle that with a class of kids when you come back? Eight-year-old kid passed away that was in her class. So everyone up there is going to know someone, either family, friends, or that has passed away. And, that's going to take decades some people will never get over this. And we need, and Pete, you are welcome over here anytime. But,
Pete is, but I'm not.
No, probably not. You're high maintenance. It's such a sad situation, and it hurts me because these are my peeps up there, and but like Pete said, if you don't have faith, then life sucks. He didn't really say it that way, but I'm saying it that way. You have nothing else. And that's why faith is number one in everything. And if you don't have it, it must suck for you. Because my faith and in my friend's faith, because when I talk to people, they're like, you know, a lot of my friends at Spruce Pine are believers, and they're like, man, and they're giving the credit where credit's due, and then they just say, hey, we're gonna just have to, you know, rely on him more, and he's gonna take care of all this. Life's gonna suck, life's terrible, but you know, there's always bigger purposes. There's always bigger, more important things than you and what you're going through. So hope. You know, what's the order? Is it hope, then water, you know, air, all this kind of stuff? But in hope, one of them, a lot of people put,
3 seconds without hope, like
yeah,
3 minutes without air, blah, 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 3 seconds without hope.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think, you know, that is one of those things that if you survived, some people have extraordinary stories of survival. You know, their neighbor's house disappeared with their neighbors in it. Things that happened. If you survived, God had a plan for you to survive. And that's the thing to remember. You know, you can't give up no matter what the situation is, because if you're still here, he's not done with you. And you've still got something you're supposed to be doing. And I've been in a couple crazy situations that I might have not survived in my life, and I'm still here. So there's still some mission that I'm here to do. And we have to keep that in mind and realize that, you know, we're serving a higher power. It's not just that we are here serving ourselves and can go, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to check out. I'm going to hang up the towel, punch my ticket. I'm done here. No, I'm here to do what I am tasked to do, to be the hands and feet. You know, that's what we are here for. And people who have seen the things, and you know, Forrest, you said, you know, one kid. I imagine that there's a lot of places that it may be a lot worse than that, and we just don't know yet. The totals and the devastation and the things going on. It's every community is going to be touched in a lot of ways, and those folks are going to have a lot to deal with as things slow down. When things even start to get back to normal, it's going to be difficult. So,
let me say one more thing.
Go for it.
You listening and you hearing us talk about our faith and how we do trust God and we believe it. We're not just saying this. We really mean this, and we live this life. We live it that way. And that means that in our lives, the most important tool we have is our Bible, because that's how God communicates to us. And if you're not communicating with God, then you need to get your Bible, you need to read your Bible, and you need a relationship with Jesus. Everything else, once you understand that and God, and you understand who God is and what he's done for you, your entire perspective on life and everything you do changes. And we're saying that from experience. We're not saying that we're preaching to you. We're not saying that we're trying to convert you. I'm brutal honest always. If you don't see that and you don't have that in your life, you're missing the most important thing in your life. So we're not preaching, we're not judging. We're just telling you from experience. We have that, and we pray that you would get that if you don't have that.
And in this situation, he is present. There's a lot of people that, you know, ask questions about why. Well, I can't answer all those other than there is evil here. And that kind of, and those sorts of things happen because we're in a fallen world. But I can also tell you that I witnessed personally multiple instances of, we really needed this piece of equipment, and it literally showed up while we were standing there, right at the right time. Or
Over and over again. Oh my gosh. Over and over again, every day, like a dozen times, from little to big. The need was met. It was crazy.
Yeah, at one point at the Grindstone deployment, we're standing talking to a guy who's one of the medics, and he's fixing to rotate out. He's been there for 7 or 10 days. He's going home, and we don't have anybody to replace him. There's nobody on the schedule to replace him. And we're, you know, wishing him well, standing there talking. And this lady comes walking across the parking lot. and we don't know who she is. She walks over to the table, and we're like, what can we do for you? How can we help you? And her response is, well, I'm hoping I can help you. And it's like, well, are you on the list? Have you, already, you supposed to be here? No, I don't know anything, but she's either a nurse or an RN or something. And she's like, I just thought that I might be of help. So I came. And we're just all kind of looking at each other like, why? Okay, well, here's your replacement. God provided right here in our lap, right when we needed it. This guy's rotating off. Here's his replacement. And it's like, okay, you two get each other up to speed. We had a full field hospital. It was, it was amazing, and over and over and over stuff like that happened. So totally the spirit at work there. Truly, truly amazing. And people go on short-term mission trips and places to kind of boost their faith and that kind of thing. Go to a disaster zone. You're going to see over and over miraculous stuff because he's there. He's working. He cares about you. He cares about his people. And
Beth would call me every night, and she goes, "You wouldn't believe what happened today," and and I think Beth. I mean, yeah, Beth had a good time. But she was telling me, you wouldn't believe these grown men are crying. These people that used to be like tier 1 operators and, all these people that just break down because it's just, and it's not always, sometimes it's joy. Sometimes you're crying with the family, and other times it's just sad too. So Beth, tell us some of your story. You told me so many. Come on.
We had a special guest arrive and came in, and I think he was on a helicopter. Anyway, he shows up. I'm in the mess hall, and he looks kind of familiar. I'm like, wow, I've seen that man before. He's getting a paper plate and eating that same old pasta that we're serving every day. It's General Flynn. I'm like, oh my goodness. He was so awesome. He stayed for 3 days. He slept on a cot in basically the room the size of a closet. And he was just with us. He was going on field ops. And all that. And he, everyone just felt such a bond. Like I know, Patrick, you felt this too, that the volunteers themselves bonded so tight in just a few days. And it was inexplainable or explicable or whatever the word is.
yes.
You could not understand. And someone would leave and people would just cry because they're leaving. I mean, it didn't make sense. So it was kind of a quick bond like that with General Flynn too. And so my moniker there was Hammer, and it was on the radio all the time. Hammer this, hammer that, whatever, for the coordination that I was doing. And then I'm going to, he's leaving. Did I already tell this story? I feel like I don't know who I've told it to.
No.
He was going to leave, and I just wanted to thank him. And he says, he wouldn't shake my hand. He said, "No, Hammer, I need a hug." And he just hugs me, so it's just a strange bond that happened. But he's bringing a lot of, I don't want to say publicity. That's probably a negative word, visibility to what's going on, and his dissatisfaction of how the government has handled this. And he's funneling some money and some other urgent resources that we need. So that was all really pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's those sorts of things are what's needed to keep the word and keep information out there about what's really going on. That will be it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Prepping Academy podcast. We will pick up with a third episode next week, covering more of the after-action report from Hurricane Helene. If you'd like to learn more about PrepperNet or the Prepping Academy podcast, please visit us at www.preppernet.com and www.preppernet.net for our private social media platform where the discussion can continue. You can also learn about our city groups, our city meetups, and other fun events going on in the PrepperNet world where you can meet like-minded individuals, develop community, and learn more about what's going on in your area. So as we've seen throughout this event, community is where it's at, guys. Community is what matters. Community is what will be there when the chips are down. Not the federal government, not someone from out of state, not someone from elsewhere, but the first people, the first responders, the first individuals there to help are the people that are in the community. So build that community, build those networks, and prep on. This is Patrick, in for the Prepping Academy podcast.